returning from the source. After a time of decay comes the turning point. The powerful light that has been banished returns. There is movement, but it is not brought about by force. The transformation of the old becomes easy. The old is discarded and the new is introduced. The idea of return is based on the course of nature. The movement is cyclic, and the course completes itself. Everything becomes of itself at the appointed time. All movements are accomplished in 6 stages, and the 7th brings return. Therefore, 7 is the number of the young light, and it arises when 6, the number of the great darkness, is increased by 1. In this way, the state of rest gives way to movement. These are words from the 24th hexagram in the ancient Chinese I Ching, the Book of Changes, by Richard Wilhelm, translated by Carrie F. Barnes. I don't have the energy of the 24th hexagram in my Gene Keys hologenetic profile or my human design body graph, but I do have the energy of the 27th hexagram, and I'm a line 6. So, as we know with line 6s, they have a view into the next hexagram, or the evolution of the energy, and in the wheel of the I Ching, the 24 comes after the 27. So, I feel I have a bit of a view into the infancy of this energy, to the line 1 of the 24. And I feel profound reverence for this energy. I'm a little bit daunted to figure out how to find words to share about the energy of silence. But I'll try. It's a really beautiful thing to acknowledge the absolute stability of the pulse and rhythm of the evolution of all things in the universe. Everything is in movement, in evolution, and at a certain point within each cycle, there's a resting and the potential for a new beginning, a return from the silence, a return from the source. Everything in creation is an emanation from that same source. Everything we know and experience and remember has emerged from the pregnant void at the beginning of creation. In our modern culture, though, it's easy to miss this potential return, and we get caught up in the perpetuation of our patterns of past behavior, and at times it seems we disconnect ourselves from these rhythms of renewal and return. But they're still happening. They're an undercurrent at every scale of creation. In the Gene Keys synthesis, Richard Rudd articulates the spectrum of the energy of this hexagram as moving from the shadow of addiction to the city of silence via the pathway of invention. The idea is that we each return to and from the silence, and as we do, we have an opportunity for invention, for renewal, for creating new patterns. For many, the idea of addiction is scary, but each of us has experienced addiction, whether it be addiction to thought patterns or belief structures, behavioral patterns, external stimuli or validation or drugs. To one degree or another, if we're being honest with ourselves, we have, each of us at times, not been mindful that we are depending on something or someone or some thought pattern or behavior or belief that makes us feel better or that makes us feel secure. And sometimes those patterns can become destructive and they no longer serve us. I've experienced addiction. I've been addicted to mental structures in the past that blinded me from the realization of other potential possibilities. At times, I've been addicted to working out. Like many of us in modern society, I am currently addicted to caffeine. And during a period of particular trial, I found myself addicted to alcohol. I can acknowledge that each of these addictions, each of these cycles of addiction served me, actually, and I'm grateful for the teachings that they brought. Perhaps the greatest of the teachings was that I learned the courage that it takes to acknowledge a destructive cycle and pattern, and I felt the strength that it takes to change. As I said, no one is exempt from the energy of addiction, although it can manifest itself in so many different ways. At its basis, it's just simply the replaying or repeating of the same way of being or thinking or doing without pausing between cycles. If we are mindful of the opportunity to take a pause in a cycle and to return to our source, we may begin again and enter into a new cycle. In the Gene Keys book, Richard Rudd articulates that we can purify our astral body through starving it of external stimulation and thus enter into the holy ground of pure desire. The desire to return to your true source. He explains that through what he calls gap moments, we have the opportunity to change neurological gears and make new patterns. And he suggests that there are spontaneous gap moments that occur to us. In my experience, while epiphany can't be forced, we each may consciously conjure up gap moments anytime we need them. Meditation is a common practice of quieting the chatter of the mind and returning to the silence. I also find silence within by listening to particular pieces of music. It's as though the music fleshes out the interference that I've accumulated and takes me back to a still point. The silence of Source is always available to us. we can return to and from the source at any time, and from that pregnant silence, I know that all manner of invention is possible. I'd like to return to the source with you right now. There are many ways to do this, but for this contemplation, I'd ask that you just think about the last meal that you digested. Think about the fruits and the vegetables that you enjoyed. Acknowledge that they are now becoming a part of you. And realize that the memory of the vegetables are now becoming a part of your cellular memory. The vegetables were synthesized by a plant in the ground, and the plant remembered how to use energy from the sun and nutrients from the earth to create the fruit. The parent plants passed on the gift of their memories, the ones they received from their ancestors, to the fruit. The neutrino stream of light energy from the sun that was received by the leaves of the plant had its own memories to share and gifts to give. And so did the nutrients received from the soil of the earth. The minerals and organic matter in the soil are themselves the descendants of a star that exploded a long time ago. And the energy of the star carried its own memories of the first emanation, the Big Bang, the first cycle, the first light, and the beginning of all things. From an original vast but pregnant silence at the beginning of space and time, all things have been made, including you and me, and we each carry the memory of all that evolution inside us in each moment. All we must do to return to the source is take pause and recognize the gaps between cycles. Feel into the magic of the silence between the notes played. From the darkness of the night, a new light will always come. Every cycle's end signals a new cycle's beginning. What new inventions may become manifest through you upon your next return from the silence? What inspiration will I bring into physical form in my next cycle, out of the darkness and into the light? What kind of a world can we manifest together next? Why don't we spend some time in the silence and then come back to see?